everybody's super serious about going to sporting event. Shit, like the sporting event, like, ooh, that is. I am so glad you said it because it's the one thing that pisses me off about this entire pandemic. What's up, peoples? It's your bartenders, Mr. Z.
And your boy Omega.
We dive into a conversation that's usually shaken, not stirred. Vaccines. We discuss the impending COVID vaccine, learn the process in which vaccines are made, and share some thoughts on where we stand in all of this. As every episode, we want to thank all of you for listening. We truly appreciate you listening to our hearts and minds on varied and difficult topics.
Special thank you goes out to our Patreon subscribers for their support of the show. Every little bit helps us reach our goals to invite more high-profile guests and create bonus content.
And if you want to join in our conversation outside of this cast, feel free to hit us up on Twitter or Instagram at HaveADrinkCast, and make sure to use that hashtag HADcast.
Remember, this is always a conversation. If you don't agree, you want to voice your opinions, or even suggest a topic for an episode, feel free to join our Discord as well. The link will be in the description.
And please, if you like what we're doing here, share us with your friends, your family, your neighbors, heck, even your enemies. Torture them with understanding and grace. Your referrals mean a lot to us, as that's how we gain more listeners. So,
thank you again.
And get prepared to sit,
think,
and have a drink.
Welcome to Have a Drink Podcast. Enjoy the episode.
We said peace. What's up, peoples, and welcome back to another episode of the Have a Drink Podcast, where we invite you to sit, think, and have a drink. We're your bartenders, Mr. Z.
And your boy Omega.
Hey, and welcome to the bar. Please have a seat, pull out your drinks, and let's get to sipping. Today, we are actually going to talk about a hot topic as of late. And when I say late, I mean like all of 2020. But vaccines.
Yeah, so like Z said, that we're going to talk about vaccines tonight. It was brought to our attention from my cousin Erica. She said a friend of hers and a new listener actually brought up and wanted to hear our take on vaccines. So I just want to tell you, thank you for your lovely suggestion. We do appreciate it. And we would love to talk about this. I mean, this is something that's affecting everybody at this very moment. Your feelings, or even just, paying attention to the medical research, getting your COVID test and everything else. So we really do need to talk about it.
You know what's funny? We talked as a larger group early on in the podcast, before we actually started recording. We had a conversation about vaccines.
Big time.
Yeah. And I remember, because it was of course, it was at the start of the pandemic. That was kind of like the center of conversations. Just because people were trying to see how they were going to feel about it, people spewing conspiracy theories, yeah, it just was, it's been really interesting to see the evolution of people's stances on vaccines in general, since the pandemic has been as long as it has been.
No, definitely. And I mean, everybody's talking about it. Everybody's been dealing with it, especially with like, even in regards to the voting, at the presidential debate, like talking about vaccines, talking about people who just need to just believe in the fact that that the pandemic is real. It's crazy that we even have to say that, but there are some people that just don't really believe in it. And so that makes it even harder, to where now everybody is a scientist. Everybody is a politician. Everybody seems to know everything there is to know about vaccines, about the pandemic, about the disease, about I'm like, come on, man. You barely made it out of high school. Now all of a sudden you're a scientist. I'm not jumping on the vaccine train immediately. And I say that because you can't rush perfection. you know, and it's too hard to sit there and be like, we're gonna have a vaccine because we need to get back to work. Yes, we need to get back to work, but you are not gonna rush no vaccine and throw it in me. That's scary. That's scary. Something that's not been tested, something that's not been proven, something that has no real data and research. I'm good. I'm good. You can miss me with that, you know. But what is bothering me about the vaccine that I do want to bring up before we have our resident scholar jump in, um, finding out that they're going to force our military to get it first. They're going to force our military to get the vaccine. They're going to
Really?
have, yes. And the reason why I say it bothers me is not because I'm active, but I have family members that are active. I have friends that are active, which means there is no I don't want to get it. It's a I have to get it. It's
I
my job.
mean, you have to get vaccines and shots and immunizations anyway when you're going into those fields. Like if you're going into the military, I mean, so it is, yeah, it is part of the job, but I get like it's something that's experimental. There's I mean that's a whole other level of taboo within and of itself, especially involving American history with it.
Exactly. Like I said, I just wanted to bring that up. Like that was something that kind of triggered me personally a little bit because I have my cousins in the Navy, and my first thought is, what's gonna happen to my cousin, man? Like it would rip me apart to know that something happened. He could have been the one in tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands affected or had a bad reaction to it. Like it would rip me apart that this is something preventable, you know, had she had a choice. Now, if she says, okay, if she stands up and says, I'm going to go get it because that's my duty and she's all for it, I respect it. And then, you know, that was a choice made. But if she doesn't want it and you're forcing her to take that needle because you're saying we're paying you, this is your duty, your job is to do what we say and get it done now, I'm not for that. I'm not for that.
Honestly, I mean, especially when we have other studies, if you are a patron on our Patreon, um we'll be getting a bonus episode coming out talking about this, but there's a an experimental process that may have figured out how to reverse the aging process, and it could be the key or the gateway to possibly finding something to combat this virus and lots of other viruses.
Yeah.
Um, but without getting too much into that, you'd have to watch the video, and in order to do that, you actually have to be a patron.
Hey, shouts out to all of our patrons out there.
I didn't hear about the military. I actually heard about the healthcare professionals and the first responders being the individuals that would be getting it first, because as a part of the group of individuals getting it first, because I mean they're at the front lines dealing with it, other than the people who are in
Who
their
have it?
care. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, it would make sense, but also at the same time, if it's bad, it could wipe out all first responders. That seems like putting all your eggs in one basket. Like, didn't we learn that when we were younger? You know, like don't put all your eggs in one basket, because if you fall and they all come tumbling out, they could all come crashing and splattering all over the floor. You don't have no eggs no more.
That's true. I mean, like, in respect for the first responders and all of our people on the front line, thank you for all your service and thank you for all that you do. It definitely takes a special, important person
Absolutely.
for you to do that, whether you're answering the phones or if you're actually out there with your hands in the dirt. You know, you guys are all in it, and we appreciate you. We love you. We respect you, and we thank you.
Absolutely, 100%. We definitely appreciate you all.
And one of our loyal patrons and listeners is one of those first responders. So shouts out to you too. That's your second
Absolutely.
shout out. You know what I'm saying? I would say if they could have the choice, if they chose to take it, that would be different for me because now you can have a controlled group.
Right.
Those that chose to take it, then you have those that did not.
I mean, okay. So we're debating, whether at the moment whether or not we would take it. That's the kind of point where we're at right now in this conversation. But the idea is, the thing is it's not going to come out soon. What they're projecting is from less than a year from now, like little under a year from now, is when they want to be able to have everyone vaccinated. So I mean, within that time, there's time for the things that are necessary to get done, but things done well shouldn't be done as quickly as this is being done. Obviously, we want to get back to our lives. Obviously, things are going to happen. When this first kicked off, people were like, oh, vaccine will be coming out soon, like at the end of the year. Trump is spouting like, oh, vaccine's coming very soon. We're going to have something very soon, like quickest it's ever been. I mean, which might be true. It's like there's something that might be coming the quickest it's ever been, but that's because usually vaccines take, like, on average, a vaccine for a virus that we've never encountered before at this level, and never needed to vaccinate this many people for, um at this scale, at this time. It took roughly like 13 years.
How long ago was that?
That was actually when we were dealing with polio. It took a
So,
long time before we figured out a polio vaccine. Like our president FDR, he had polio.
so how long ago was that? So early polio vaccination trials was in 35.
Right.
Polio was distributed.
1955. So I mean, just alone, you see, like even with that, checking out polio, all it took was 20 years from the trials. You said, like, in order and like the clinical trials till they finally made it widely distributed and available to everybody in order to get, and it was like 1955.
Results announced. So 55. Within that same year, they were suspended.
Right. So like there's a lot of things that can come up,
Mhm.
it just it we so when everyone was spouting, it's gonna, everything's gonna come off quickly, we're gonna be done with this, very soon. I was like, no, we're not. People were hesitant, when we were having the conversation before about this. I know there were those that are hesitant about the taking the vaccine because of something about Bill Gates. How he talks about population control, and the key for population control is within the vaccine. And while, like, okay, I can understand that being said, but then we had the conversation that further went along, that was like, I think the context is which is being talked about is like, because we were on the precipice, and obviously it came true, of 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 this impending pandemic, um that, like, you understand the process of how vaccines are usually made. They're usually made from the virus, and that's why there's this scare, because they assume that they're going to put microchips and nanobots and all this sort of stuff in the vaccine in order to monitor us, or in order to control us, or the mark of the beast, or whatever the level of fear that people have ingested. It's without a complete science behind it. There's this need to actually go out and do your research and try to understand, like, what's going to happen. And I don't mean research on what was it, Pinterest, or what was it? Yeah, I think it was Pinterest, where there was the group of anti-vaxxers that were going around and spewing all this anti-vax propaganda.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's crazy. And then they ended up getting shut down after Pinterest found out. They were like, wait, really?
That's not arts and crafts. No, I'm just
Right.
kidding.
Right.
Um, now, like, it's very interesting you say that because for me personally, I know this is going to be weird. You're going to hear me say this. My reserve is I don't know exactly what they're going to put in it, right? So I know it's going to sound crazy to say like the whole microchip thing, but that is something very doable. I mean, they've already figured out in I want to say Sweden, but it's either Sweden or some. It's a European country where they actually have figured out how to microchip their employees, So they don't have to use anything. They just scan in and they can get into the office. They get access to the building. They can pay for their food or their lunch. They can do all this stuff. And it's like that is the way of the future. Like that is what people are trying to do. Everybody's getting away from. They're saying we have a coin shortage, which is weird to me. But think about that. Now our currency is going from physical paper metallic money to digital currency to plastic cards. Now it's to your cell phone. So the only next evolutionary step is to go from something inanimate to it being you. We're already talking about nanotech and all this stuff. So that is my reserve because I don't know what they're going to do. They could
But
show me everything. They could show me, they could be like, this is what we're going to put in there. I don't trust that fool.
right, and that's the thing though, is they're not going to, this isn't, as much as we've seen um a pseudo supervillain in the White House, a broke hillbilly Lex Luthor,
Calm down. Calm down.
no, some real shit, um it's not a comic book. It's not a story, it's, as much as like they won't do it without our knowledge. What is going to happen then? You're going to have an uprising. And what are they going to do? Just take out everyone? Then that's stupid money. It's Loan Shark 101.
But,
Is
but,
dead
but,
men
but,
don't pay debts.
but, who's to say they had to kill you?
How are they going to
It's already illegal.
electronically break your kneecaps?
It's all it's already almost illegal to live off the grid. You have to have some type of digital or paper trail. They need to have some type of way of getting a hold of you, some way, shape, or form. So the reason why I say that is it's like you say, how are they going to digitally break your knees? No, but they'll digitally ruin your life, and we've
And they
seen
could
that
already do that right now.
exactly. And that's why I'm saying it's just like it's just there's just too many variables that make me uneasy with it. But that's going far, far way out there.
Well,
I mean,
that's conspiracy. Like
yeah,
that's an extreme.
yeah, and that's not where I want to go because a lot of times that's where people always go when we talk about vaccines. But like those are the worries, right? So let's bring it to more reality based.
Okay.
Vaccine vaccines is in theory is a great idea. It's very necessary. It's something that we all are going to need and potentially need to have. But we can't rush that. Now, why are they rushing that? Because they want to get schools back in session. They want people to be able to go back to work and be able to boost the economy, so to speak. That's dangerous because who is going to spend money if they're dead? Who can spend money if you're dead? And that's why I'm like, you can't rush perfection. You have to be careful. I'm not saying don't get the vaccine. I'm saying listen to that inner voice. If you know, because like I mentioned earlier, you know deep down into your DNA if something is good or not. You know if something's going to be, if you're going to be okay if you did this something or not. You'll know it. It's like right now in my bone gristle is saying, no way, Jose, am I going to get this vaccine right now. Maybe 5 years from now, and there's been some ample studies and trials and everything else, all right, I'll consider it. Now, I'm not big and fast on getting the flu vaccine. I've had it multiple times. Right now, I'm pretty good. Granted, they always say there's a stronger strain and everything else. It's like, yeah, but I'm also not hiding in a bubble either to where my immune system is so weak it can't handle it. I put myself around people that have it, but I still keep myself clean and still do my part. But obviously I'm not comparing the flu or the cold to COVID. I'm not doing that. I'm just saying, you know, we've had the vaccine. They've run through our families. They run through our system, through our country for many, many years now. By this time, it's a part of our society, in a sense.
So I actually came across this article in the New York Times. It's labeled as an opinion, so I presume this was one person's study and their opinion, and they wrote in. It's by Stuart A. Thompson, and this was a study done in, or this was an article published in April of earlier this year, 2020. So this is how long will a vaccine really take? And so the study was, trying to break down, the process of a vaccine kind of at the start of of the pandemic, and really trying to find and to kind of ease people's minds, because everyone was kind of talking and hyping it up and being like, oh, obviously the Trump administration was pushing forth, oh, vaccine will come very soon, they're already working on stuff, there's people already on it, they should be done faster than they have ever been. And so this article kind of talks about that, and it says it's been projected that our goal is to have everyone vaccinated by August 2021, right? And this article is actually really cool. So as I was scrolling through it, before I get into any more details about it, as I was scrolling through it, there were points on this in this article where it shows you the graph of time. So where our goal started of August 2021, everyone vaccinated. They also have the typical amount of time it would take, which wouldn't be until November 2033, right? That would be with every, like, taking all the necessary precautions and steps to the completion and perfection of these vaccines. So, like academic research, preclinical, phase one trials, two, three, building factories, manufacturing the vaccine, approval of the vaccine, distribution, and then the essential vaccination. Um, and they said that wouldn't all happen until, be completed until November 2033, with the typical timeline that it would take. As we mentioned before, how polio, their vaccine was 20 years, from 1935 to 1955. So that whole process, that was I mean, like, and the president even had polio, at the time. FDR, was famous for having polio. And so you got to see the process in which it takes. So when everyone starts talking about this, I'm like, yeah, a portion of the whole vaccine process takes 18 months, takes the amount of time that they say it'll take for them to actually create the vaccine. So with that, going through this article, you're allowed to see the process, the necessary process, and the sacrifices that they're making in order to what we would need to do in order to give us that goal of 2021 August. um and some of the things were about, starting the trials early, like, we'll, instead of doing a lot of the academic research, we will rely on the study from the SARS and the MERS to shorten preparations before clinical trials, which shortens it by like a year. You don't wait for the academic research. You can kind of skip to clinical phases, using what we know about the coronavirus so far, and that'll take off an additional 2 years. And it's quite insane to see, the extensive research that is necessary in order to create a vaccine. um if you want to do an 18th month vaccine, there's going to be a lot more that we're going to have to sacrifice using a pandemic speed timeline. So basically, you start subsequent steps before previous phases are completed. So as I said before, how things were done one after the other, like, these are being stacked on top of each other. So they're not even done. They're just like, everything is in different phases for it. You push to larger scale tests sooner. So you move from phase one to phase two to phase three, and by basically combining them all. And then you also can use emergency provisions, like vaccinating frontline and essential workers early, to kind of, like, see if those things start to help prevent the further spread of the disease. And that knocks off, I was going to say, about 4 years of time. That collective just bunch of check marks to take off. On top of that, making the vaccines
So that's 9 years now. So we went from 13 to now 9 years.
9 years. We're at 9 years right now.
Go ahead.
Um, and then at the start of preparing factories, they start to make vaccines early, build and manufacture them early, so anticipating the factories that they're going to need, that are going to be useful for the future distribution and creation of the vaccine, um, as well as take a bet on a successful study involving mRNA vaccines. It's using basically experimental technology to produce vaccines faster than the traditional means, and that in and of itself takes 4 more years.
We are now at 5 years.
And then on top of that, there is the fast track of the federal approvals, so shortening the window from a year to 6 months.
4.5.
4.5, and then last 4.5 with the early vaccination and the early trials of segmented populations. So like that knocks everything down to be able to, like, you see the steps that people are having to take, that the professionals are needing to take in order to push this along. Now, I mean, we're talking about vaccines for the coronavirus, but like for a moment, like, let's just talk about vaccines in general, because there's a constant debate. I know I mentioned it earlier about Pinterest and anti-vaxxers and things. Like, people are really out there spewing misinformation about vaccines. About it being linked to autism, about being linked to different mental illnesses or disabilities, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. When countless, countless studies have disproven those claims. But people still dig their heels and feed into that sort of knowledge, so it kind of puts people off from doing it, and that causes a problem. So we're talking about vaccines, and the reason why I bring up the anti-vaxxers is because if you have a population of people that don't take the vaccine, then it leaves areas for those diseases to reintroduce themselves into society
And become stronger.
and become stronger and have mutated with us, because they've been dormant for so long. And the only way for vaccines to truly work is the for everyone to take the vaccine and to take the preventative measures. Obviously, there's combining common sense with science. I just feel like combining common sense with life in general is the key to getting through it. So obviously use your brain when things are coming out. If it's like, wow, this is really fast, let me, like you said before, Omega, like, let me take a minute, let me take a couple years and see what happens. I might not take it right away because I want to see how it affects people, if there's negative reactions, if there's like a recall, all of a sudden now everybody has cancer. Like, you don't want those levels of things happening. All of a sudden we have a zombie outbreak, or what have you.
That's a great point. You bring up a lot of great points, and thank you for going through that article. Um, I just keep thinking about the kids, man. Like that's the only where my head goes. I'm not even thinking about us. I'm thinking about those that don't have a choice. They do as they're told, or they're taken and just given. They don't have a choice. So therefore, it's like, can you look your child in the eye, get them this vaccine, and be confident that they're going to be okay? Because their immune system's way weaker than ours. Their
Hell
immune system,
no. No,
exactly.
no, no.
And that's where I'm at with it. So it's like, I'm not an anti-vaxxer. It's just I'm not a instant gratification person. Like, I know it is not going to happen right now.
Right, and I want to clarify. I didn't want you to think I was pointing at you and saying, like, I consider you an anti-vaxxer, or
I know
that,
you don't. I
you
know you're
know,
not.
because like that's like, there are, I'm cautious as shit. like, like you said, are people gonna be able to look their kid in the eye and just give it to them flat out, and confidently say you're going to be all right? I don't plan on having my children taking it right away. As much as I understand the necessity for more social interaction than just each other, um, and us, I also understand. Like, I also am cautious and protective as a parent, of being like, I want to make sure that the thing that comes out doesn't end up shortening my children's lives, you know?
It's funny is because I think about these other things. I think about all the times when stuff is just getting rushed. Like one of the Android phones, the notes. What was happening with those notes? They were blowing up. They were blowing up in people's pockets, stuff like that. What was happening with those vape pens? They were blowing up. What's happening with some of these game systems? They have bugs. They have a lot of stuff going on with them. So that's why when you get the first generation new hot game system like the PS5, some things are not working right for people, or they're having troubles with the servers or whatever, right? It's just when there's an influx of everybody wanting these things and trying to get these things and it hasn't been truly studied or rolled out properly, stuff is going to happen. That's just life. Stuff happens, and it just makes me worried because it's like we're already losing people and we're going to potentially lose people with the vaccine, so it's just like you just got to be careful. I'm very much just like you. I err on the side of caution. I'm not here to tell anybody to get it. I'm not here to tell anybody not to get it. I'm going to say, do you, boo boo? But be mindful. Be mindful. Study. And even though everybody's like, don't do me search, do some research. Conscious shout out to Conscious Lee over there. That's him, not me. Research over me search. That's what he says all the time. Um, be careful with what you are researching because everybody says there's this lovely thing called the internet where you can get all the information you need. You got to be careful. And that's where I have an issue. It's like, I don't know who to trust. As much as I try, you don't know.
Honestly, I mean, it's so true. Like, whew, that was fire. I hadn't heard him say that one yet. So, something you said, it's interesting because like we're stuck in this consumerism mindset over a vaccine, you know, something that's necessary in order to save people's lives. We're thinking about money. We're thinking about it like you even said it, you know. You even mentioned it, the new gaming systems. That's the way the the companies are treating it. That's the way, the society is treating it. They're like, oh my gosh, when is the new system coming out? We need the new system, we need the new vaccine, we need the new. I mean, obviously this is a lot much larger, more dire situation that calls for that feeling of urgency, but um it also pushes the companies to potentially make mistakes, to skip steps, to cut corners, you know, rather than sanding down the edges. They're just, just snipping them right off and going along their merry way and hoping for the best, you know. And that's potentially dangerous. But like we said, like I'm also not here to tell people to what to do, other than to do their research. Like, even that post, for the New York Post, I had to do subsequent research on that, to make sure I understood, further understood the process of how vaccines are made, to understand the timetable in order it takes to make a vaccine, like the important steps that go around, vaccination as a whole with society, before I really like want to make a decision on something for myself surrounding this. So I mean, I feel like there's a lot of fear surrounding it, just because fear is one of the guiding tools to control. Um, one of the major tools to control of society, control of masses, control of people. Churches have done it throughout history, medieval times. Patriarchies have done it. Matriarchies have done it. Off with your heads. Like, as we go through all of this, it's one thing. One thing I want to reiterate that you mentioned, and that's staying mindful. Mindfulness. I feel like that needed a revisit. because when you said it, it hit me. With everything that's been going on, there's been a lack of mindfulness, and everyone is reacting. Nobody is responding to the situations that are coming. Nobody's responding to the things that are happening in the world. Some people are just rolling over first thing in the morning, looking at their cell phones, Twitter feed, trending bar, finds the look, see something that triggers them and has an emotional reaction to something first thing in the morning, and then they go back and look at it and they were wrong. They were wrong to say something about it. And they were like, "Oh shit, I didn't I misread your post, or I misread this. I'm sorry. I was wrong." You know? Or but people don't say that. People don't come back and say that they were wrong. They just get into further argument. But like, you know, that with a little bit of mindfulness, you would be able to do that. Then you wouldn't be sitting there looking like you're stupid with egg on your face. Like
And that's why I say, don't do it for me, do it for we.
right.
Don't do it for me, do it for we. That's the way I look at things. That's the way I think about it. And it's the same thing with the whole mask thing. You know, I don't wear the mask for me, I wear the mask for we, to protect me from you, protect you from me, and to make sure that we both will be okay. And you could feel whatever way you want to feel about wearing the mask. That's fine. That's fine. I'm not here to tell you what to do or how to do it, but it's just for a little bit of time. And that's the way I look at it. And I'm like, okay, if this is something I got to do just until, let's say, this vaccine happens, I'll do what I got to do for the greater good. Because I really think about things in that respect, the greater good.
You mentioned something earlier that I think we should touch upon, because you were talking about the military being forced to take the vaccine, right? It reminded us of a similar situation involving a group of military individuals back in 1932, uh, known as the Tuskegee Airmen. 1932.
See how close that was to figuring out the polio vaccine?
Yeah. And
Yeah.
that was for the syphilis trials.
Hmm.
Um
I'm not going to dive into that, but what I am going to say is that is the basis of why so many people of color are nervous and afraid of doing that, of getting the vaccine or anything like that, because we've seen what it did to our grandparents or to our parents, depending on how old you are. And I say that because my grandfather, my mother's dad, was born in 1919. So what does that tell you? And he was in the military, but he wasn't a Tuskegee Airman, so therefore he was not a part of those syphilis trials. But he very well could have been, and that's why I'm like, it's scary. They can dress it up any way that they want to sell it to you. You know what I'm saying? They'll shine it, they'll put a fresh new coat of paint on it, and they'll make sure that you see all the glitz and glamour on the front of it. But they're not going to show you the back end. They're not going to show you what it really could do to you.
right.
And that's the source of our concern.
Right. I mean, we've experienced what America's willing to do as far as voting leadership the first time around it happened. And what we got for 4 years was a lot of the similar rhetoric and kind of points of views that led to the Tuskegee Airmen being a majority predominantly black military outfit. What they're willing to do to black men in the military. Obviously a lot of people of color are going to have that fear. And to see that the same rhetoric being in the position of power isn't so far away from something like that actually happening, of
Very
course.
true.
At which point do we say that, yes, we're being cautious, yes, we're gonna wait and see, but at what point do we decide to take that step forward again? When do we feel like it's safe? Because even then, even then they could, I don't know, in order for people to go back to work, like jobs will could like businesses can start to require people to do testing and bring their test results into work, kind of like drug tests. There could be a lot of things that go into place that require people to have it, which is going to make it really hard. Just mark my words. I'm saying this now, and I said that specific part because that's what I foresee happening with a lot of people, because
Oh yeah.
we're gonna have extremists on both sides, obviously. We're gonna have all the people that lay in between, but we're gonna also have the struggle between the two extremes. Those that don't want to catch this again and to send us back into a pandemic, and then those that still didn't believe it was a real thing, and that or they're entirely fearful and skeptical due to history.
Well, you know what's going to show this a little bit sooner is how serious people are going to be about going back to sporting events and concerts.
Dude, everybody's super serious about going to sporting events. Shit, like the sporting event, like, ooh, that is. I am so glad you said it because it's the one thing that pisses me off about this entire pandemic is the insane lack of consideration for other human beings to want so badly to just watch another sporting event, to watch people go back to doing the things that we love for our entertainment. What kind of narcissists are we that we feel like other people deserve to put themselves at risk and your entire team and their families at risk just for our entertainment?
Are you not entertained? Is this not why you are here? This is Gladiator all over again. So this has been a part of humanity. This is how we've always been, to find our source of entertainment through the loss of others, at the expense of others. And it's sad, but just think about it. That's how it's always been. And I say that because now the reason why I'm bringing that up about the sporting events, you'll see how it is because what are sporting events probably going to start requiring everybody to do in order to attend? Take a COVID test.
Like they're going to be modified COVID tests where they'll be instant. They'll be able to tell you that you could do a swab, you could do a spit, you could do a whatever, and they'll be like, nope, nope, you have it, you got to go.
Or
Or
or it'll be you show up with your paper within the last X amount of hours or days, proving that you've gotten a negative test. You know, so think about that. Now, what if they're like, well, in order for you to have this, you have to show that you've been vaccinated in order to attend.
I mean, that goes back to my original question or the original statement I posed about, businesses and restaurants and places that require that.
Mm-hmm.
Concerts.
What about all of your players?
I mean, employees.
There you go. Like that's what I'm saying. It's like you're gonna see it through your sports and entertainment. You're gonna see how serious people are really gonna be. Are you okay with not going to another football, basketball, baseball game again?
Don't ask me because the
I,
answer is yeah, I'm fine.
are you
But like
okay with never
not
going back
going
to
to
a
an
concert?
or convention, like yeah, no, really, like
Could you never go back to a movie theater and be able to experience that with people? Could you never go back to an amusement park and experience that with people? Could you never go back and perform on stage again and go on tour with people again? Because why? People would need to be able to show that they are safe. We have to know that we are safe. And I'm saying this because these are the arenas that we are a part of.
right.
We are directly affected.
But what the NFL and everybody, they fight so hard to just we want to get see our people playing games. We want to see butts in the seats again. Yes, motherfucker, so do we. So why not focus your attention on to promoting the healthy activities for people to be doing? Use your players, take a player and a cameraman and have them run drills at home. Set your players up with ways to like go out like go out and be active for themselves, still be healthy, still do things like make virtual training camps to be able to have people exercise or have kids be a part of those online. There's a lot of things that can be done and it's not that fucking hard. I'm not even the motherfucker with the ideas and I came up with 3 good ideas right then and there. Like, but seriously, like that like this has been my biggest pet peeve. Like my big like the thing that has pissed me off the most during this pandemic, because like I get it. I want to go back to normal too. But the more we do this push and pull, like, go to your room, sit down and wait till the shit is over.
Who are the two arenas that did it right so far? The
Oh,
NBA and MMA. MMA is the very first sport to come back to production during the pandemic. The UFC specifically is the first sport to be played during the pandemic.
sports, dumb as fuck.
But let me explain. They follow all protocol. They are the ones who set the precedent for the protocols as far as quarantining, getting checkups, getting COVID tested.
The
If you,
NBA, yeah, the NBA did a really good job of
yeah,
it.
with the bubble, right?
Yeah,
So what I'm saying is like within MMA, it's like they made it to where it's like if anybody in your camp, so that means you could be fighting, but if one of your coaches comes up negative, your fight's canceled. You guys don't show up.
right.
And then also they have them show up a week or 2 weeks early. They're quarantining. So they're training in their rooms by themselves. They have their own sauna suit. They have their own saunas. They have everybody's meals are single served and they're brought to them, or they have somebody that cooks their meals. They can't leave their bubble. They have to stay. Like everything is very regimented, and they take multiple tests a week. One wrong, you're gone. And there's somebody there to replace you.
Something you said was really interesting.
Say,
Um, and it was the bubble.
mm-hmm.
They created a bubble. So what did they do? Nothing in, nothing out. No, and that is one of the issues that I have. With being out, going out, being around people and stuff is like I said it before, but like I love y'all, but stay the fuck away from me because I know you're not as diligent as I am about making sure that I know who I'm around. I know how close I am around them. I know for how long. I'm I'm really retentive about it. Like I'll sit there and I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna put on my mask because I don't feel comfortable, in this moment. Like I need to take a precaution. There's something that I need to be doing because you could follow all the rules in the world and then come across somebody who doesn't think the same way that you do, and in fact thinks the exact opposite way, and they end up introducing the virus to you and you end up catching it. You're just like, what the fuck, I've been so careful. I even asked this person and they've just been like, oh yeah, no, I'm fine, I've been good. Like I haven't had any symptoms. Like
Yeah.
it's like, oh well, that's nice, glad you haven't had any symptoms, but have you had any tests? Have you like have Who have you been around? What have you been doing? Oh, I just got back from traveling. Motherfucker. Like,
But yeah, like that's matter of fact, I'm going to get a COVID test tomorrow. I'm going again. This is gonna be my third or fourth one. But it's like we do it because we need to. You know what I'm saying? And the other thing is, it's like I know who I'm around and when I'm around them, and I'm very very particular. You know, it's like okay, or if there's somebody that I'm unsure of or whatever, ain't no thing with me just taking a few steps backwards or being like yo or making it painfully obvious like all right, I see you. Yeah, I see you. Stay over there. You know, but it's because it's like there's certain people that I know that I can be around. That's it. Like my clients, my personal training clients that I work with, they don't leave the house. So I know I'm good. But that's why I have to take my precaution because if something happens to them, it's because of me. So I have to be mindful of them. They're older. So I have to take those precautions. If I'm around kids, I have to take those precautions because I can't risk those kids' health, just like mine. So it's like I have to do my due diligence too to live, but I have to do my due diligence to keep others safe. And that's the important part. That's why I take my COVID test and I get my COVID test done. That's why I make sure that I'm okay. That's why I make sure that if I am in close proximity with people, then I'm aware or I have my mask. That's why I got 75 masks. I got 3 of them in my car around my stick, around my clutch. I got a couple hanging up by myself by my keys. I got 2 of them sitting right here, right next to me, and I'm freaking on a computer. I got them everywhere. I got hand sanitizer everywhere. I wash my hands. I'm very, very doing my due diligence as we expect everybody else to do. Too bad not everybody does theirs.
I was listening because I was resonating with the things you were saying, about doing your due diligence, not just for yourself, but for others. There's a certain level of selflessness that that we all need to take upon ourselves in order to survive. I get that there's this mentality to protect, me and mine. Wonderful. Do that. But in order to do that, you're also going to need to learn how to protect and also take care of your neighbor if necessary. Because in order for, because you might not know, they may be your saving grace somewhere down the line, and you reaching out to them and giving them a helping hand, or in respect of this current situation, like taking 6 steps back, like, taking your 6 feet, you know putting your mask on, washing your hands, taking those tests, you know eventually when it gets to that point, taking a vaccine.
I'm going to go a step further. We should be how every first parent is with their first infant child. Do you bring your infant child that you just brought from the hospital around the world? No. You take your time, you bond, you take your time to build that child's immunity. Why? Because you know that they're not ready. Our immune system isn't ready. So we need to look at this like we are taking care of an infant child, except this time we're that infant.
Omega here dropping bars.
Nobody's ever said that to me. Bars. Man, I can't rap a gift or lyrics for that matter, but I appreciate it.
um I was thinking that's like a great note to end on, brother. Like,
Then that's why they call me Omega.
see, this is why we don't ever let you go first.
Well, what's to
Or
say after that?
go last.
Don't worry, I won't go 100. I promise. I won't go 100.
I'm gonna go 170.
I'm only going 65, guys. My legs.
165. Anything this brother says.
Okay, let us explain what we're talking about right now. So we started we are part of the inaugural dance crew for the San Francisco 49ers. And it's funny because we're all a group of very talented entertainers and dancers. And we're trying to figure out right before we go on who's going when and when, you know. And there's 5 of us. So I was like, well, my name is Omega and I like to go last. So can I just go last? And they're like, all right, bet. They're like, but why do you want to go last? I'm like, I just do. So I do my thing, whatever, right? And they're like, okay, we get it. And then a couple games later, I'm like, I'm not gonna go that hard today. I'm not feeling as cold. I'm gonna go like 65. They're like, all right. I get juice off of somebody and I do what I find to be 65. Then these fools look at me and they go, bro, you said 65. You did 150. What the hell was that? I'm like, that was my 65.
Because I'm supposed to go after you. And I'm like, I can't do a backflip, Omega. What the hell? You just did a gainer out into the middle of the circle.
Hey man, my 65 is different from your 65. Okay, don't be judging me. Don't be judging me.
165.
What?
That's why I say add a 1 in front of anything he says. I don't trust him no more. Anything, we taking it easy. I'm like, I'm bringing out everything. I don't care. Like, I look at you every time. I'm like, I do not care.
This guy goes first and automatically does the splits. He's like,
Yep.
forget
Come
it.
on.
I'm getting my shot.
Bring it. I know you're about to murder this, so Might as well let's all go out with a bang.
Nah, not me, not me, not me. I don't murder nothing. I don't murder nothing,
I
man.
don't end things like a period.
I don't, man. I'm like nougat. I'm like a comma.
No, you
Come
like an exclamation point. That's what you are.
on, nah, man.
No,
But
no, you're an exclamation point and a question mark together. Just bam! Leaving
anyway,
everybody surprised and confused and impressed.
that's funny. Well, I'm blushing. I'm black and blushing, so that's weird. So again, I'd like to say thank you to all of our patrons that come in and have been supporting the podcast and helping us out. We really do appreciate it. Thank you to all those that do support our podcast and help us out. Thank you to the lovely supporter that suggested this subject for us this evening. This was a lot of fun, and it was great to hear my brother's opinions, even though we talk about stuff all the time. But I love hearing this. And for those of you that have some questions or want to talk or want to be more a part of this, please hit us up on our Discord, hit us up on our social media. I'm more active on it. If you guys haven't been, have been able to tell, more active on there now. So we both are. So please holla at us, give us questions. You got questions, we got answers. If we can't figure it out, we'll go learn about it so we can talk about it.
Absolutely, and maybe in those times we'll also learn how to record audio for our segments. Oh,
Oh,
shade. Shade.
you got jokes, I see.
I do.
I got 26 minutes of some quality video right here.
If you could read our lips.
Oh man. Oh
If
gosh.
you could just read our lips.
I hate you so much right now. I'm so upset. Dear Mr. McIntosh, can you please find the audio from this video? That'd be greatly appreciated. Nah, it was we got somebody that already put in the head into the Discord
We did.
immediately. Being the very first one in like a blink of an eye. It dropped and so did your comment.
A special shout out goes to Markia for dropping that had one of the first 10 people to enter our little contest. It's still going on. We're still waiting for our first 10 people to drop the H.A.D into our Discord, onto our Instagram, up in our Twitter, all on our Facebook, something. Just drop us a line, drop us a hat. The first 10 people will be receiving a special gift, and we are already sending Markia's on the way to her as we speak.
Hey, thank you, Markia. We truly, truly appreciate you and your due diligence. Hopefully, everybody else will wake up.
I mean, we are on pretty early in the morning as we are having drinks at night
Right?
recording.
Right? Hey, and speaking of, to y'all overseas, come on, man. We want to ship something way out there.
Absolutely. Drop a line to us if you're listening overseas in Paris, in Germany, in London, wherever you are, please reach out. Drop us a hello. Just drop us some spirit fingers as Omega's intending, trying to get that energy out there. Um, yeah, we would love to hear from you all.
Yes.
Hey, you can also hit us up on Twitter or Instagram at Have a Drink Cast, and be sure to use the hashtag HADcast. That way, we are able to see your messages to us. I'm actually curious on everyone's stance about vaccines. Where are you in the early release of vaccines, or if you're for it? Where are you in vaccines in general? Are you for them? And
What is your comfort level in regards to vaccines and this one that's pending in the near future?
Absolutely. How do you feel about needles? Because I know they terrify me. That's one reason that I hesitate to do anything really. That's why I always told my mom, I'm like, you never have to worry about me doing hard drugs where you have to shoot it up with a needle. Because
What if they came out with an aerosol,
of the drugs or the vaccine.
the vaccine, almost like an inhaler or a nasal spray?
I mean that
I
would
mean, don't.
be.
And the reason why I go that route is because they're swabbing our nostrils and they're swabbing our throat.
Well,
So
what if they
what?
just, I mean, it would start a whole level of conspiracy theories if they just started dropping the vaccine from the sky or releasing it into the air. That way it went throughout the air and became part of like what we breathed in.
Wow. You went way over to the outer
But
limits.
that would be the way to get it to distribute it to a mass population of people, um in that wouldn't cause a backup of supplies, that wouldn't cause a inflow and congestion of, personal traffic.
Mass hysteria.
I mean, that could cause mass hysteria. That could cause. I mean, people already freak out about contrails. They call them chemtrails. Contrails. Little education of the day. Contrails are the streams of liquid and cloud like um, streams in the sky that run off of airplanes and jets and certain jets. Um, but yeah, I mean, we already have people that spew conspiracy theories, so it's going to anything that happens, there's going to be that level. Everything has a balance.
And on that note,
It's time to close the shop. Closing time. All right. On that note, I want to implore everyone to raise your glasses. Brother, I thank you for joining me this evening. Listeners at home, I thank you all for joining us for another successful episode of the Have a Drink podcast, where we invite you all back to sit, think, and have a drink. That's been us. Peace.
peace.